What was your father's childhood trauma? How did he deal with his deficiencies? What were your mother's insecurities? What battles did your parents fight and win? And what battles did they lose? If you don't know, you have a problem. See, life is one continuous journey. Seeds sown in one generation show up as harvest in the next generation. Negative experiences in one generation have a tendency of showing up again in the next generation. Last year, a video trended online about a woman who was sexually molested by her father when she was 10. And years down the line, her own son impregnates her two daughters, his own sisters. Why, why, why? Hello, my name is Udora Basiokun. I am the founding president of Elsha Vocations Nigeria. You're welcome to another episode of Social Realities. Social Realities is a broadcast that is targeted at helping you build or reinforce your social intelligence. Social intelligence gives you capacity to relate well with yourself, with people, and with God. Without social intelligence, you become a victim of the very things that were meant to be a blessing to you: your giftings, your position, your relationships, and even your own emotions. On today's broadcast, the topic is patterns that repeat. We once lived next to a family that experienced marital crisis early in the marriage. The man abandoned his wife and 4 children and went after another woman who had kids from another marriage. This man's children grew up hating their father for what he did, to the extent that when the first daughter was getting married, she refused to allow her father take part in the marriage rites as a father. She brought in her uncle, her mother's brother, to stand in as a father. Now, years down the line, this man's only son abandoned his wife when she was pregnant with their second child and went away. The good part of it is that in this case, the man realized his mistakes and has been trying to make amends. See, all of us inherit different things from our parents. We inherit their genes, their giftings, their perception of life, their flaws, their behavioral patterns, and their unresolved struggles. In summary, we inherit positives and negatives. These things are passed on to us by connection and by association. Please bear in mind that your impulsive reaction to situations, positive or negative, is a function of the mental programming in your subconscious mind. Those things you have seen and heard over and over and over eventually become coded in your subconscious and define your impulsive approach to meeting needs or solving problems. So many a times, you tell yourself, I will not do like my mother did. I will not be like my father was. Or you say, I will not behave like my boss when I become a boss. And yet, years down the line, a situation happens and you find yourself saying exactly what they used to say, and you find yourself reacting by reflex exactly the way they did. That is because you have imbibed that behavioral pattern without being conscious that you did. To change that narrative, you have to unlearn the mindset that produced that behavior in the first place. How do you do that? First, identify the mindset that produced that behavior. Then, adopt an identity that redirects your standards. When you have done that, use this to reprogram your subconscious mind by speaking to yourself over and over and over until it sinks and until it replaces the old programming. How do you know when the old programming has been replaced? When a similar situation happens and you react differently. You see, you cannot change something negative in a vacuum. You must replace it with something else. That is the most effective way to change permanently an old programming, an old habit. In 2022, I experienced an emotional breakdown, and in that trauma, I lost confidence in myself. I lost confidence in my vision. I lost faith in the things that matter. I sunk into the validation mode. That mode where all you want to do is get back at the other person. You now want to succeed, not for yourself and not for God's glory, but to get back at someone. How did I get out of that mode? I created an identity creed for myself. Let me share with you what I created. I wrote out 5 identity creeds and I read them out to myself over and over and over. I am a winner. I don't quit. I prevail. I am a champion. I live aligned, not rebellious. I am a conqueror. I live proactive, not reactive. I am a king. I take responsibility for what I want. I don't cast blames on another. And number 5, I am a high flyer. I evolve to remain relevant. Now, this identity required me to take up specific values that fed this identity. And what were those values? I wrote them out and read them out to myself over and over and over. I am faithful. I am steadfast. I am thorough. I am prudent, and I am disciplined. You need to redefine your identity, and you need to reprogram your subconscious. Once you have successfully reprogrammed your subconscious, everything else becomes a reflex. So why do negative patterns repeat across generations? Because they were not recognized and intentionally dealt with. Most parents have trauma or secrets that they hide from their children for fear of losing face before them. These pains have not been shared. And because of that, these pains have not been healed. See, some of the battles you have had to fight were battles your parents fought and lost. If you had known about it before time, you would have been better prepared and better equipped. And also, some of the battles you have had to fight on your own were battles your parents fought and won. And if you had known that they had won those battles already, you would not need to fight those battles in your time. So at this point, my counsel is, if you have any of your parents still alive, you need to go to them and have conversations with them regarding their history. What were their traumas? What were their disappointments? What have been their deepest regrets? What are their fears? What battles have they fought and won? What battles have they fought and lost? This will position you to live better and fare better than they did. Let me remind you that life is governed by the law of cause and effect. Everything you say, everything you do, and everything you refuse to do are all seeds that will yield harvest, not just in your life, but in the life of the ones that come after you. Take the responsibility to unlearn impulses and habits that are negative. Take the responsibility also to heal from hurts and traumas of the past. Because if you don't, you will pass it on. Seek help if you cannot do it on your own. Don't be the one whose next generation is weaker. Be the one whose next generation is stronger and better because of your input.